I'm John Poland of the New England Free Jacks, and you're watching Rugby Wrap Up.
Next on Rugby Wrap Up, Major League Rugby with Dan Power, Bryan Ray, and Matt McCarthy. Rugby Wrap Up brought to you in part by The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub. The Murphy Kennedy Group, founded with the idea that construction can be done better. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. And we are back. Matt McCarthy in Manhattan, Dan Power on a golf course in Colorado, Bryan Ray paying homage to the Utah Warriors in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Guys, we just had a great guest of John Poland, the spark plug of the New England Free Jacks at number 9. He was instrumental in their annihilation of the Houston SaberCats in Houston. Brian, NOLA versus New York. New York had like 15 plus unforced errors and those quick pick six touchdown passes, if you will, in the football analogy. If you eliminate those and even half the unforced errors, they might beat NOLA by 10 points, but they didn't.
I think they got their tactics all wrong, and they got it wrong right from the get-go. They went spin to win as soon as the whistle blew, and when that's nice and all, when you've got them on the retreat, but when you've got tight forwards throwing missed passes to each other in the back line against a winger, that's not the kind of thing that you're going to come out on top with. And we saw that pretty quickly. And, it's interesting. I don't like to stir the pot too much, Ben Foden made a few comments, kind of to that, saying, hey, we've got to earn the right to go wide. And he made those comments and they kind of posted him in a video online, which has magically disappeared since. And I totally agree with them. They were running everything from inside the 22. They were just throwing the ball willy-nilly left and right. Look, I get they want to play open attacking rugby, keep the ball alive, but they just gave the game away to NOLA.
That's not New York. I think they'll be better for the hit out. I think we've seen the preseason difficulties rear their head. They look great. Everyone was up for week 1. The grind of the season starts week 2. And a few little things in their game there I'm sure that they'll work on this week and come back better for. New York will be better than what we saw on Saturday. NOLA, to steal words from the great late Dennis Green, they are who we thought they were, right? They're going to be one of the powers in the East, and I think they're probably going to be one of the sides who will be in the mix come August.
Yeah, it was a sloppy game on both sides. And really, when I think NOLA had at least 3 yellow cards, if I'm not mistaken, in that match. Every time it seemed that they were going to just step on New York's throat, they didn't. Kind of let them back in before finally pulling away at the end. That rematch should be an interesting one. Dan, 32-zip.
We saw LA do to Seattle, and New England actually played LA really hard in that game out there, even with the red card. Yeah, I think that second half down there was probably more of the Free Jacks we hope to see in 2021. First half was tough, 5-0 into the break. Houston probably gave up a lot of opportunities in that first 40 minutes, but in the second half, is that the style of Free Jacks we can expect moving forward?
And Brian, when was the last time we saw Sam Windsor, Dan's man crush, miss 2 kicks out of the gate? Ever.
Yeah, I'd have to go back through the annals of MLR history to check that one. Disappointing for sure. I'm sure he's not feeling that great this week. I thought, John's fair, though, that Houston, I don't think the goose egg really was reflective of Houston's effort in that game. They came close to each other. They just couldn't finish at all. But yeah, I think you also have to credit, the Free Jacks defense. Mr. Johnston, their number 7, had 2 enormous turnovers right within the 5-meter line, which is pretty impressive in that first half.
Old Glory going into Atlanta, the ATL, the Rattlers, 30-23. Nice win for the Old Glory DC boys, Brian.
Yeah, I thought the first half went pretty much the way I expected the whole game to go. But then we saw that dramatic tactical change at halftime. They put Danny Tusitala, who, he was doing reasonably well at 10, but let's be honest, he's a 9. Went back to 9, brought in Mike Deboulis, and it changed, the whole outlook for them. And, they started moving quicker. and they brought Stan South, the big English lock in. He did all right until he got yellow carded. Welcome to the league. But that's a really good performance, actually, I think, from Old Glory, and a little bit, if I'm ATL, I'm a little bit disappointed in letting that one get away, because, they had some advantages and they just didn't take advantage of those opportunities that came to them.
Yeah, Dan, your fellow Daniel, or Danny Joseph Karifi Tusitala, actually from the Kelston Boys High School, he can play scrum half, he can play fly half, he can play the wing, he can do some plumbing, he knows his way around a circuit box. He's arguably the league MVP at this point.
He's got to be up there, hasn't he? He's definitely in the conversation. I'm going to just echo Brian's sentiments there. One thing that came out of that game for me is it put a magnifying glass on how important a fly half is in this league. Kurt Coleman out for the year for Atlanta. They lost their direction a little bit in the second half, not having an experienced 10 to guide them around. Petzer and then Skolfak trying to figure out who they are in that position. And then how good was it to see Danny go back to 9? Deboulis, the Penn State grad. One to keep an eye on. I know they're pretty high on him at Old Glory, Matt. They've got a pretty high regard for him as a future player. So sitting behind Jason Robinson, now he gets a shot here for the next 3 weeks, you would think. You'd think they'll probably start him this week after that second half. So I didn't think they would play as well as they did, missing Robinson. So I was very happily surprised to see Old Glory play that way.
And a great gutsy coaching move by Andrew Douglas early on in the season in games that you need to win, right? So in an interconference game. Utah, Brian played Toronto. Maple Leaf fans will appreciate the fact that you can't play defense like the Stastny brothers, Quebec Nordiques, and expect to win a game, especially when that's not your style. But we did not ever see this happening.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. I would not have predicted, and certainly did not predict, that the Arrows would be 0-2 based on what they had lined up. Look, they just look flat. They I don't know if the excuse is rust or what it is, if it's still jet lag. I don't know what it is, but they've just looked really flat both games. They had nothing in the first half for Utah at all. They kind of came back a little bit in that second half. Manuel Montero came off the bench and was raging to get into the game. But they're just not on, they're not all together. Disjointed has been a word used. I have to agree with that. But I think we also have to give credit to Utah. You kind of mentioned it. A bit of a surprise team, maybe. I think I probably underestimated them heading into the season. They're playing really well at the moment. They look good. And before they've had the problems with getting through a game without fading. Well, we've seen now 2 80-minute performances out of them. I have to give them some credit. So I am repping them this week. Well played, Utah. And we'll get them next time, Toronto.
Dan, another Dan comes up on impact on the Arrows. Perhaps Dan Moore not being there.
Good point. I was going to actually say it's the triple M's that are missing in Malcolm, Moore, and McKenzie. And you just wonder, Brian kind of mentioned flat. It's usually when a team's flat, you look to those experienced players to give you a little bit of spark or push. That's where that Sam Malcolm, that inspirational run where he takes it to the teeth of the defense, gets smashed by Simon Manoa, but gets up and goes again. It lifts your team. Dan Moore, such an experienced guy. And I think the younger Canadian players looked at him and just felt a little bit more confident. And Jamie McKenzie is probably one of my favorite nines in the comp, one of my favorite people in the competition. I think once he can get healthy and get back in, it makes a big difference. If there's any consolation, though, Brian, at least the best try of the match came from a Canadian who just happened to play for the Warriors. So how about that one from Hurst? What a try.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, those arrow wounds are deep for Bryan Ray, ladies and gentlemen.
I've got to give credit, though. I've got to give credit to Sean Pittman and the Warriors. Made some adjustments on the fly in that game. Sean Pittman did his apprenticeship. John Mitchell, Gary Gold. He's learned from really good coaches. I think he could be looking at maybe being a coach of the future for the national team. Just from what I've heard from Warriors players and pundits around the traps, what he's done with that side has been very, very impressive. So,
you know what?
Go Warriors.
They're no longer, again, I'm going to say it, I've said it a number of times, but they're no longer a 60-minute team, right? And that's a big difference in culture, right? Go Warriors. They're beating it.
Go Warriors. Say it, Brian. Go Warriors.
Go Warriors.
There we go.
Brian, could you look at the camera and say that again, please? All right, next up, Remember the Alamo is what the people of Austin, Texas are thinking right now. San Diego walked into what it looked like was going to be a pretty easy win maybe for the Gilgronis at home, because you had a wounded, mentally beaten down San Diego Legion team, but don't count out the heart of a champion or a would-be champion. And Joe Peterson proving it, why he is the guy that gets all the accolades, right, Dan?
Yeah, 100%. I don't get the Alamo thing. Like, I get the courage and
Texas,
stuff, but they lost, though. Like, there's been so many great victories in American history where you didn't lose. Like,
they lost, and you're in Alamo country.
True. That's true. You've got me on that one. I think Austin will look back at this as a game that 100% got away. The amount of times they were in the 22, pressing the line. I know I don't want to poke the bear down below me here with the scrum thing, but if the laws are the old laws, they turn the screws. Whopper and Paddy Ryan really were dominant up front there against San Diego. It was a tough one. Even at the end, a chance to win it at the death, and they could not get over the line. So some work down there for big Sammy Harris and Mark Gerard on just executing.
Piffoletti offered something off the bench. He looked like he had a little extra step after not starting this week. Maybe it was a message to him. I don't know, but he looked good when he came off the bench.
Yeah, I actually expected San Diego to win this, but at the same time, I feel that the best team did not win this game. Austin were all over this, and like Dan said, they squandered some opportunities there, missed pass when they had an overlap. I don't know what in heck they were thinking on that line out at the end, trying to go to the back or middle and big overthrow, and then San Diego runs back and they get a score at the other end. These are just inexperienced. I can't call it inexperienced. There are some experienced guys out there, and they just didn't make the right decisions. You also feel for them. I think there's 3 big decisions that didn't go their way in that game that, are frustrating. Kind of already talked about the scrum, which I think is a disgraceful situation, but there it is. You kind of have to deal with it, and they're going to have to adjust based on where it's at.
And that heartbreak of an ending for them, up a man and still not being able to punch it in, while fans, remember what those people are, were chanting, "Go AGs, AGs, AGs." It was good to hear that, and it was great to have that 16th man, but they lost another one that they probably should have won. Do you go for the tie?
Yeah, I don't know. I had that conversation with a few people at the time, and it's funny. My gut instinct said, boom, let's scrum. You're doing so well. I think it was pretty close. I said, just pack a scrum. Get Frank Halai on a little outline there and just give him the ball early and say, go to work, big Frank the Tank. But they went to the line out, and the rest is history.
Next one up, the LA Giltinis taking it to the Seattle Seawolves.
Yeah, how about that? Seawolves fans have just enjoyed 2 great years. Game of Thrones reference, like a child of the summer. You've never known winter. Winter is coming, and it came in the shape of LA, which never experiences winter. There's the irony, but LA are playing chess while the rest of the league are playing checkers right now. I mean, they are so far ahead. It's incredible.
You mean on the salary cap, or?
And moving right along, Matthew.
Why? Because they're Australian?
No. Listen, we cheat at cricket.
We're going to an underarm. We haven't believed it. And that's a disappointing finish.
No, you've got me there. Yeah, definitely not a bad history of cheating in Australian sports. So, but we've never cheated while being part of a team in America, though. There you go. So we're good.
Yeah.
50-7 at one point. What do you say? It was just one-way traffic. Look, I think LA are beatable. I don't think they're perfect. They're obviously ahead of everybody at the moment, but I think it's a long season. Some of these guys are a little bit up close to my age, which isn't a great place to be on a rugby field anyways. So, they're going to have some bumps and bruises along the way. We already saw DTH sitting out this one. Imagine if he was playing what the score might have been. I'm still not sold that they're going to walk their way through this to the title, but gee, they look good right now in Seattle. I don't know where to offer help, but they need some. I will say this: James Malcolm coming off the bench on debut, second half, within a few minutes, has a hat trick. I think that's a major acquisition for them.
The old hooker off the bench for the hat trick, but if they play him for 80 minutes, he's got 9 tries, and that basically evens things out. Right? That's the way it works, right?
Rugby Math 101, baby. You know
Rugby Math 101. All right, I think that's it. Let's take a quick break and come back with our quick previews of the matches ahead in Major League Rugby with Dan Power and Bryan Ray.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
Been blind since I was 4. And I've never seen a beer commercial or a beer label. None of that stuff influences me. I drink beer because of the taste. And my beer is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It has the taste and the flavor.
What do you think's on the label?
I think there's a naked woman riding on a unicorn, jumping over fire. Oh, that's good beer.
And we are back. Matt McCarthy, Dan Power, Bryan Ray. Bryan Ray has not been out of the igloo, as we were discussing off camera, and he's a little bit angst-ridden because of his arrows failing to connect on their targets. But will they connect on this week, Bryan? They're going into, Washington to face Old Glory at home. What do you say about this one?
Yeah, I think I underestimated Old Glory last week against ATL, so I'm a little wary about this one, but this is frankly a must-win game for the Arrows. They're heading into where they're going to play LA the following week, so they better sort out their problems. I'm going with the Arrows in this one. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be close, but I think Montero, I am guaranteeing will start this one from the get-go. I think Tukule will feel a little bit better now that he's been out of quarantine, so I'm going to go with the Arrows.
I cannot see a world where the Arrows are 0-3. I mean, no offense to Old Glory. They've played great. They're 1-0-1, and they looked good, but just can't see it happening. They're too good. There's still too many talented players, even with the players we talked about earlier. I'll go the Arrows.
The Arrows have to be desperate, but, hate to make excuses, and they're organizationally, they're not making those excuses, Bryan. But COVID, going to a different country, it sucks. It just sucks. And these guys are on the road out of the gate. They're going to have a home game in Austin.
Yeah, I mean, but that was the big question heading into this season. How are they going to handle this? They knew what they were heading into and what was on the table for them. And so you can't make excuses at this point because there it is. So deal with it. And that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. So just hope they get the victory. I
got to go with Old Glory in this one. They're putting things together, and they did that last week without Robertson, right? So San Diego going into Rugby ATL. Is this a must-win for Atlanta, Dan?
They've been close, haven't they? So I don't feel like ATL have been playing bad, and I just feel like I'm really kicking Brian while he's down here. I've got a little John Poland in me, kicking someone when they're on the ground. Sorry, JP. Last time, I promise. But
it was reversed, so he didn't. Hello.
Sorry, allegedly. Toronto just didn't look good against Utah, where ATL have looked a lot better. They've looked more promising. So San Diego, get that win. It's in Atlanta, right? That's a heck of a flight from San Diego. I'll go Atlanta at home.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think ATL's defense has been pretty good. I don't think their offense has been super hot. And Johan Momsen, their lock, is their number one kind of ball carrier at the moment. That's a little bit of a worry. San Diego, not really firing in all cylinders either. Getting a few more bodies back, though. I think they'll have the bit between the teeth a little bit more this week. So I'm going to go with San Diego because I think they got a little bit more firepower, and we saw against Austin they can kind of pull it out when they need to at the end.
But I think that San Diego is showing that grit and gutting out these games right now. And they played sloppy rugby in Vegas against New York, but that was a gritty win. They stole a win in Austin, and I think they're going to steal a win in Atlanta. Then we've got the Texas two-step derby.
Yeah, tough game, right? 0-2 at Austin, 1-1 in Houston. You don't want to be on the team that loses this game. You know, it's going to be a pretty dark place to be in. Austin at home, I thought, I agree with Brian, they were the better team against San Diego, just couldn't execute. I think Sam Harris, Mark Gerard get them this week, iron those things out. I think they'll go a long way to retaining that Texas Cup with a win over Houston.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Austin in this one as well. Houston just really, did not look great, obviously, against New England. Austin are just kind of almost there, you know. They maybe could have beaten Utah in the first one. They probably should have beaten San Diego in the second. So even though, they'll probably be without Bryce Campbell, but I still think they'll bring in Big Frank and he'll be okay in the midfield. So I'm going to go with Austin in this one.
Yeah, we're certainly rooting for Bryce Campbell. Early reports are that he is okay, and he is a key component of that back line. And I was wondering how much of an impact that happened, or how much of an impact that made on his teammates, seeing him being taken off the field. But again, they were right at the end. They had every opportunity to win that match and just didn't get it done. I think they do get it done this week. I think the Gilgronis are going to win. Dan gets his Lamborghini. Everybody rides off into the sunset in Austin, and then the SaberCats have some real questions to answer. But I think the SaberCats aren't as bad off as we may think. So I think they'll probably get things straightened out as we go on, because every team right now has issues, right, guys? I mean, every team has their, but he's not here, or he's hurt, or this or that, and rust and everything else. So that just sets the stage for a pretty exciting middle run of this season. And guys, we had John Poland on earlier, and his team is welcoming in the Warriors, who are no trip to Paris, Dan.
Yeah, the Warriors of old, right? Super inconsistent. They go out and look like the best team in the league one week, and then they turn up the next week looking like they should be playing in the under-11 somewhere. So I feel like that's gone. This is their first.
You're going to get your ass kicked for saying that.
Who? By a bunch of 11-year-olds? Actually, probably.
Boom, boom. Good answer.
Circle
gets the square.
God, this is a hard one to pick, Matt. This really is. I can see the Warriors going out there and playing the style of rugby that they've played already and getting a pretty convincing win. But the Free Jacks are just a tough, resilient side. We saw that against LA, down to 14. They had card issues again against Houston, but turned around the second 40, used that win to their advantage. Really like the looks of Dougie Fife, looks to be coming in his own at 15 with Bodine Walker out. So if Walker comes back, good headache for Ryan Martin to have selections. Yeah, both sides have road to victories here, and this will be a really good game.
Yeah, both teams did better last week than I thought they did. So I think this is going to be a cracker. I think a big key for New England is going to be cutting out those cards that we've talked about. They're just giving away too many. And, it doesn't matter if they feel like they're on the kind of the rough end of those calls. You just got to rope in their discipline just a little bit. And if they can get rid of that, then this is going to be a really, really interesting close match. But look, that's the team I'm wearing this week, and that's the team I'm backing. Utah have looked good. They beat my Arrows. They have me convinced. I'm picking Utah to win on the road and surprise everybody.
Wow. You know what? You just jinxed. You just mushed Utah. And I've got the Free Jack shirt on because they made me look like I was smart with Layfield and the Philly Godfather. But we keep underestimating the Warriors. And the teams might be doing it as well. So I'm going to go with the home team, I think. I think the Free Jacks might pull this out. But, again, I'm ready to be completely wrong about you guys on the Warriors. And I apologize on behalf of Dan Power for saying that you played like 11-year-olds. So don't take it out on me. Take it out on him. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Dan Power, Mr. Bryan Ray, for coming on Rugby Wrap-Up and bringing a little class to this show. And please check out our other segments, including our Major League Rugby show, our global rugby recap. What are the odds? Our Major League Rugby sports bet show with the Philly Godfather, John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE legend, and Gifty Bailu. Martial law, the Zack attack. And please sign up for our American Red Cross Rugby Wrap-Up Blood Donor Team.